The most common penalties imposed on taxpayers by the IRS are the failure to file and failure to pay penalties. A failure to file penalty is imposed if the taxpayer doesn't file the return by the deadline. The deadline may be the standard tax due date or a later date if an extension was requested and approved by the IRS. A failure to pay penalty is imposed if the taxpayer doesn't pay their total tax debt by the deadline. A failure to file penalty is imposed if the taxpayer doesn't file their taxes by the deadline. It's important to differentiate these actions. Regardless of the date on which you file your tax returns, the IRS expects you to pay your tax by your deadline. In other words, while filing extensions may be available for some taxpayers, no payment extensions are offered by the IRS. The failure to file penalty is 5% of the tax due at the deadline, reduced by the failure to pay penalty amount for each amount in which both penalties apply. This dollar amount is charged every month, even if the return is filed less than 30 days late. The IRS explains further on their website saying, if any unpaid taxes was required to be reported, a minimum penalty applies to income tax returns received 60 or more days late. The minimum penalty is the lesser of the unpaid taxes or a fixed rate which depends on the year of the filing date was due. The failure to pay penalty is calculated differently. 0.5% of the taxes due on the deadline is imposed. However, it can decrease by 2 points if the return is filed by the taxpayer as the individual. 0.5% of tax due on the deadline is imposed. However, it can decrease to 0.25 if the return was filed on time and the taxpayer is an individual. If the tax isn't paid within 10 days of receiving a levy notice, the penalty increases to 1%. In addition, this penalty will be incurred repeatedly on a monthly basis until the debt is paid off or until the penalty reaches 25%. 0.5% of unpaid taxes on the due date printed on the notice, or 0.25% during a mutually approved installment agreement if any individual taxpayer filed by the deadline, or 1% if the tax isn't paid within 10 days of the notice of intent to levy. This penalty is also a recurring charge until the debt is fully paid. Taxpayers with back taxes over $100,000 are given 10 days to pay in full. This significant penalties often make it more challenging to pay off back tax debt. The good news is you may have other options. The IRS offers several programs and waivers for eligible taxpayers that can significantly reduce and dissolve their penalties. Consult a tax relief professional to determine the best strategy for reducing your tax debt and establishing an affordable installment agreement that will halt current and future collection efforts. The staff at Tax Champions has over 35 years of experience in negotiating the lowest balances on the program that's right for you. Give us a call today for an informational discussion about your circumstances. By the end of the call, you'll have a better idea of what options we have, as well as what it'll take to get you back into compliance with the IRS. We're on your side, and we strive to make the process as easy as possible. We're available evenings and weekends, in addition to standard business hours for your convenience. We look forward to hearing from you. Call us today.